All right, your business news then. All motorists and the wider economy are set to some cost reprieve. This as fuel prices declined for October. Come Tuesday, midnight, the price of 95 octane petrol will decrease by 32 cents a litre. The price of diesel will decline by between 90 and 93 cents a litre, while illuminating paraffin comes down by 76 cents. The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy attributes the fuel prices decline to the rand having appreciated against the US dollar during the period under review, as well as the price of crude oil also coming down, which then translated into lower fuel product prices. Analysts say that the rand continues to recover in September, and it continued to recover in September and is still expected by most economists to recover even further before the end of the year, although volatility could increase over the coming days as US elections draw nearer. For more on this, we're now joined by Lavan Gopaul, Director at Merchant Africa. Thank you, as always, for giving us your time here on SABC News, sir.
Good afternoon to yourself and your listeners. I think it's a very pleasing note to see that we've got lower fuel prices. And of course, you're correct. Much of that comes about because of strength in the rand. We've also seen that oil price fall into weak territory through most of this calendar year. What we've noticed internationally is a number of oil producers continued production as normal. But of course, the demand was not that great. So you saw stockpiles of oil in a lot of manufacturers not able to push that on as they normally would in their usual trade. So that oil price having fallen very sharply throughout the year, at one point we saw some of the oil futures trading in negative territory. But what we've noticed at the moment in these last few trading sessions, the focus has been on US President Donald Trump and his health. And of course, oil traders watching that very carefully. Some of the normal dynamics within that oil complex, Norway has started something of a strike within its oil industry. And there may be a shutdown of something like 4 of their large rigs. And that's likely to see less output coming out of one of Europe's largest producers. So we have seen something of a strengthening in the oil price in the last 3 or 4 trading sessions. We're seeing that oil price higher now by at least 2%. And the other moving force in that petrol price is the rand. And the celebration for South Africans is these last at least 2 weeks or so, you've seen a great deal of spend coming into our currency. Much of it has to do with some of the movements that are happening internationally. So the focus is not necessarily that South Africans are doing something right to move the currency in our favor. It really is more of some of the dynamics, the dollar in particular, has presented some weakness.
And actually speaking of the dollar, very, of course, interesting to note that there will be volatility due to the fact that the US elections are drawing nearer. And I wonder, from your point of view, Mr. Gopaul, what are your expectations or perhaps projections of what is likely to happen? Of course, at this time, we don't know who's going to win the election. We don't know what's going to happen with President Donald Trump. But certainly, as you say, it's more about what's going on overseas than really what's going on in South Africa that's affecting where and what's going on with the rand currently. But what are your projections given the fact that the US elections are really drawing closer at this time?
Over the last few election periods, we've seen a great deal of volatility in global markets. In particular, now that you have information available almost instantaneously on social media, Twitter and Facebook have made everyone a journalist. So as news items come out, they become public knowledge very quickly. Yeah. And so you get markets reacting almost instantaneously. I think we must brace ourselves for quite a bumpy ride. We have noticed quite a bit of market action last week when the debate between the U.S. president and the Democrat candidate, Joe Biden, created something of a fuss in U.S. markets as they were uncertain about the way that debate in particular would go. And that's not the elections yet. That's really a trial run. So I think the U.S. elections are going to have quite a stormy effect on the currency markets in particular, and that dollar movement may also translate into some movement in precious metals, the gold price taking its lead for a whole bunch of other reasons, but certainly going to be impacted by the elections. And I think global markets going through COVID and doing something of a U-shape in the last 6 months are now going to be very jittery through those few days in November when the U.S. elections are on.
While we're talking about the price of fuel going down and so forth, I think it is appropriate to talk about Sasol in the news at the moment. What is your impression on the share price and what's coming out really out of the company?
So Sasol has been hurt quite badly in the last 6 months of trading. They've come out with a number of announcements that have affected that share price negatively. Much of it has to do with swelling debt, limited profits coming out of the business. And as I've mentioned earlier on, the weakness within the oil price and that oil complex has meant that a company like Sasol had been negatively affected as the oil price had fallen. Last week, they made an announcement that they would be getting rid of one of their large U.S. holdings, the Lake Charles project, for something like $2 billion, translating into roughly 34 million rand. Now, that goes a long way to help Sasol's debt. This company sitting with debt on its books in the order of about 184 billion rand. So 34 billion is likely to help them. And that should give the company a little bit more handle in terms of its focus of reducing debt, which the board have come out to indicate is probably going to be one of their priorities. And there may be a bit more robust action for Sasol once the oil price turns, and that may also translate into a little bit of profit for them.
All right. So thank you very much for your time. As always, Lavan Gopaul, we appreciate you being with us here on SABC News as always.